Have you already found the beginning then, that you seek for the end? For where the beginning is, the end will be. Blessed is the one who stands at the beginning. That one will know the end and will not taste death. That's from the Gospel of Thomas, one of the Gospels that was not canonized in the Bible in Rome, hundreds of years after the legend Jesus died and was resurrected. Why am I reading this at the beginning of this episode? We're in a time of year where at the publishing of this video, this is Easter time. And I don't know about you, but when there is a holiday, especially one that is associated with a particular religion that is celebrated around the world, and there's these little traditions associated with the holiday that don't make a whole lot of sense to me, I get really curious about that. And I wonder, why is it that we do what we do here with this tradition? And was this the original intent of the tradition, or has that original intent been lost over many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years? Kind of like the telephone game. Like, have we lost the original message here? Because it doesn't take that many people to totally distort the original message in the telephone game. And so as I'm looking at Easter and I'm looking around for Easter egg hunts for me and my family to go to with my kids, it's important to me that I'm able to talk with myself first and foremost, and my husband and my kids about what it is that we're really doing here. I've seen time and time and time and time again, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times when working with folks in transformational spaces, that intention makes or breaks an experience, especially a very, very special experience, which these traditions like Easter originally, and still in some faith traditions, they are still maintained as ceremonial, very, very special, sacred, and impactful. And if the intention is lost, then we aren't able to really capture the power of that intent of the tradition. So now I'm asking during Easter time, what's with all the eggs? And I've asked this before, and there's so many different interpretations. A few years back, I was really leaning into the pagan interpretation of Easter. And now, where I'm at now, I'm looking back even farther. And I've come across this amazing book, Mary Magdalene Revealed by Megan Watterson, which has introduced me to the Gospel of Mary. Now, when you type into Google, Mary Magdalene Easter, what's likely to come up is a picture of Mary holding a red egg. Now, if you're not that familiar with the Bible, which I am still learning a lot about the Bible, even though I grew up in the Baptist church, we were infrequent goers, and I never really grasped the Bible. And in fact, I associated it with a whole lot of dogma and just didn't feel great about it growing up. So I didn't continue going to church as an adult. So in the Bible, in this resurrection story, Mary Magdalene is the first person to see Jesus resurrected. And she talks about this, how she was able to see him in the Gospel of Mary. And mind you, the Gospel of Mary was not included in the canonized version of the Bible a couple hundred years after this legend, Jesus's death. And it's not hard to see why it may not have been included, because the Gospel of Mary, along with some other Gospels that were not included, really hone in on the individual's personal power to connect with the divine. And, the terminology, which again has played the telephone game over many, many, many hundreds of years of connecting with Christ and being able to see Christ, has me really asking now, well, maybe Christ was not an actual incarnate human. Maybe what the sages were getting at was something deeper, something more metaphorical, something telling us that we have the power to connect with this divine force that comes through our embodied self and goes through a death and rebirth process to help us know, to help us lean into that process to experience our own transformation. So back to Mary, after she was the first one to see Christ, and she then went and she told the other disciples, and then went on to tell Caesar of Rome, he laughed at her. And the story goes that she took an egg from the table, and as she was telling the story, and Caesar laughed at her and said, yeah, right. If that's true, then, that egg you're holding might as well turn red. And then it did. So what does all this mean? I'm inclined to not go with the literal interpretation and, again, lean into the symbolism of this so that I can work with this story in my own life and maybe even harness this original intent of the message and the power of the symbol of the egg during Easter. So that then leads me to ask, okay, let's look at this egg thing. Well, an egg contains the end at the beginning. Much like a seed, the egg contains a being. It contains potential. It contains energy that will then blossom into an embodied being, kind of like a seed that already contains the potential of the fruit that's held inside of it. And this teeny, 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 tiny little seed, from it, a miracle happens. And an egg is also associated with humans. Many of you listening know that there is an egg involved in the human conception process. In fact, when I was born, I had all the eggs that I would ever have in order to then continue having babies. And even farther than that, my grandmother, when she was carrying my mother, also was carrying the egg that would then become me. So I was inside of my grandmother before my mother was even born. Again, the egg contains the end at the beginning. So what can we do with this information? Why is this associated with this time of year that many of us call Easter? Why are we going on Easter egg hunts? And there's this metaphysical symbology everywhere that most of us are completely unconscious of. Well, let's think about the process of coming from an egg, and maybe we could look at our body as an egg containing our soul. This time of year, even though when we think about spring, usually we're thinking about flowers and things coming into bloom and life coming back and things are getting warmer. Oh, the warmth. And we're out planting, getting our gardens going, many of us. And it's becoming visible again that indeed we are not in the death of winter forever. There is hope blossoming all around us. And this is also a time of year which is well known in many faith traditions as being a particularly challenging time of year. And in fact, I was speaking with a friend the other day who works in elder care, and she was saying that this time of year, spring, is one of the hardest times working with dementia patients for whatever reason. And so why is that? You would think that this would be like happy, in flow, easy time of year, considering the beautiful flowers and the warmth coming back. And yet we have this time of year, which is notorious for great challenge, even for people to wake up to the fact that they can no longer wait anymore to make physical health changes, to avoid something in their relationships. Like the time is now. And that can be an incredibly uncomfortable sensation. Think about that experience from the point of view of the chick that's about to be born in the egg, just jammed in there. And there must be this experience of uncomfort and feeling cramped and feeling so ready to be over it, like over being trapped in an egg, and this great desire to bust out of it. And it can only do that when the time is right. If it does it too early, there are consequences. And if it does it too late, there are consequences. And in order to come out of that egg at the right time, there has to be this great leaning into intuition, to listening, to a divine message, to tell it when the time is right. And there must be this faith. I mean, if we think about it from the human perspective, if say our physical body is an egg, or we're surrounded by an energetic egg, a shell, so to speak, this time of year when these changes that we need to make in our life just oftentimes feel like they're being forced upon us without us planning for it, we then have to, in order to get through it, and beyond that, in order to work with that energy and make the most of that energy and thrive during this time of year and get to that next level place that eventually, at some point in time, whether it's in this lifetime or 10 lifetimes from now, we will get there. But this is a time of year when we can harness that energy, lean into the great beyond, the unseen, what is outside of that shell, and step into that next level self that we're here to be. Here's another excerpt from the Gospel of Philip this time. What you say in a body. You can say nothing outside this body. You must awaken while in this body, for everything exists in it. Resurrect in this life. To me, that message is communicating what I said earlier, reminding us of that personal power that we have to step into our own power, to let go of waiting for someone else outside of us to swoop in and save us, to step out of the victim role, to step into this connection that we all have that can be so easy to forget, that we are always connected with a divine source, whatever you choose to call it with a name, it really doesn't matter. We are always connected and have a straight line of communication with the divine. Mary Magdalene talks about going through a process in order to be able to have seen Christ when he was resurrected. Again, what is Christ? Is it really just a man, or is it something that is accessible to all of us? Maybe an ability to connect with the divine, utilizing our great, amazing human factions, such as our body, our mind, our imagination. Mary talks about in order to see him, she had to come from within herself to see him. And oftentimes we talk about using the mind to do things, to tap into the great mind of things. You hear in a lot of different spiritual spaces, manifest with your mind. And in Greek, the word for mind is nous, which means the soul's eye. The aspect of the soul we can see while we're embodied. And Rumi says that everyone sees the unseen in proportion to the clarity of their hearts. So how can we clarify our heart? What if our mind, what if this divine thread, this straight line of communication that we do not need to go through somebody else to get to? Not saying that having community and consulting with friends and consulting with mentors isn't important. It absolutely is so important, with the understanding that we always have the connection within ourselves. Our friends, our mentors, these are people that should help remind us of that. What they should not be are people that we give our power away to and forget that we always have this connection within ourselves in order to break free of this shell and step into that next level self, whether it's in our physical health, whether it's in our closest relationships, whether it's in our career. We always have this ability to work with that divine connection. And there are certain times of year, like this time of year, where that energy is most palpable, where even though it might feel like things are falling apart or that things are just pure chaos. I'm in some mom groups right now, and this has been a common theme, that there is just so much chaos and energy right now. And this sentiment of like, WTF, I thought this was supposed to be this happy, peaceful time of year. Is it just me where it feels like everything is falling apart around me? No, it is not just you, if that's you. It's actually this ability, this amazing opportunity, this gift of extra energy. And when our vessel, say our body, maybe our egg, if you want to call it that, is stretching, when it's growing, there is great uncomfort that comes with that, kind of like going through the birth canal. But when we can lean into faith, when we can open to it, which I'm sitting in the doctor's office as a kid. I hope this isn't a side tangent. I'm going to say it anyway. And I got strep throat a lot as a kid, and they would at the time give penicillin shots in the bum, and I would get so clenched up, and my dad would say, he'd pick up a tissue and he'd give this example of this wadded up tissue, and he'd poke his finger through it, and then he would release the tissue, and when it was all clenched up, there'd be all these holes in it when he pierced it, and then he would get another tissue and he'd make it loose and he'd poke a hole through it, and there was just one clean hole. And that is kind of exactly what I'm talking about here. when in the midst of chaos, in the midst of seeing with our physical eyes that it looks like things are falling apart and we can't make sense of anything, if we can know that when we lean into faith, when we can find different practices and processes to allow our vessel, our body, to just expand into it instead of contract, then we can get through it with more efficiency. It's really like this martial arts type of practice, this opportunity right now to work with the energy that we're being given. And so I think it makes Easter egg hunting a lot more fun. With all that analogy, that's just me. I'm curious about, how this lands for you. And if you're not sure what kind of processes you can lean into right now to help your vessel just expand instead of contract in the midst of all of this chaotic energy, then check out the link below. I've got an amazing process that you can actually do with another person. It's called Noticing, and it's a little video series guiding you through this process. It's really, really helpful to do this with another person, especially if it's someone that you're really close with that is open to going through this process with you. You may even be in the midst of tension and conflict with this other person. And this is a great opportunity to get still and clarify the heart. Because in this process, we are simply noticing what's here in a way where we're not latching on to judgment about it. We're not attaching to a story and running with it and sending our energy down a path of giving our power away, but we are stepping back into our embodied power in this practice. So check out that link below where you can go through this process guided with me. I'm actually doing it with my husband in one of these videos, and I guarantee you're going to feel a shift and you're going to feel more connected at the end of it. I trust you enjoyed this whole exploration of Easter from my perception. So I just encourage you to lean in right now and enjoy this ride, which I believe we all came here for. Something wonderful is on the other side. Happy Easter, and I'll see you in the next video.